Okay, we're starting at line 112, and this is where, Lady Capulet says, "Oh, Juliet, I got some good news coming up. Y'all got, you got a good dad here." And then she's here like, "Oh, that sounds great." Juliet's like, "That's great." And Lady Capulet's like, "Oh, you're going to be guess what? You're going to be marrying Paris. Yay." But then Juliet, ooh, man, she does not like that idea. She's here like, he shall not make me there a joyful bride. And she says, tell Dad I'm not going to marry him. And when I do marry, it's going to be Romeo. Whom I hate rather than Paris. Okay, so now mom interprets this as like, oh, I hate Paris so much, I'd rather marry Romeo. But of course, that's not really, of course, what she meant here. Here comes Capulet, her dad, and the nurse. So he asks her, hey, why are you still crying? You know, then his wife mom tells him, oh, but you know what? She does not want to marry. Look at this foreshadowing. I would the fool were married to her grave. She's saying that about her daughter, Juliet. Like she's pretty much kind of wishing her to die. So then, of course, Dad Capulet comes in, basically says that she's unworthy of this, and we've done all this stuff for her. And then he goes on to say that he will drag her on a hurdle thither. Okay, can you imagine? Out you baggage. He calls her baggage, and his wife says, are you crazy here? Juliet's like, you can imagine her kind of crying here, like, I beseech you on my knees, like I'm begging you. Then Dad, he calls her a disobedient wretch. And if she doesn't marry Paris, she can never look at him again. And he says, my fingers itch. Like, what that means is that he wants to hit her. He used to, a little while back, was like praising her, but now he says, now I see this one child is one too much. And the nurse is in like, hey, you are to blame, father. And then he tells her, oh, like, go away, he calls her a mumbling fool, the nurse a mumbling fool here. Even Lady Capulet points out, like, you are too hot, like, you are too mad about this. And he's like, oh God, this is making me so mad. And I did all this stuff. I matched you with a person of noble parentage. What are you saying here? And, guess what? If you don't, do this, then he will not acknowledge you. Okay. You can hang, beg, starve, die in the streets. He will not acknowledge Juliet. So that's what he's telling her. And she's here like, oh my gosh, are you like, this is crazy. She asked her mother, oh, sweet mother, cast me not away. Please delay. Lady Capulet's having none of this little delay part. Then, of course, then Juliet turns to the nurse and said, what can we do? Like, how can we prevent this? My husband is on earth. So I'm already married. I'm married to Romeo. Like, he's already here. How should that faith return again to earth unless a husband sent to me from heaven by leaving earth? Ooh, mm, foreshadowing that death again. Um, and then she says, Romeo's banished. And I think it's best if you marry with the county. I think it's best you marry Paris. He's a lovely gentleman. And he's the better choice here. And Julia's like, "What are you talking about? Are you really saying that to me?" And then she's here. She's Julia is obviously very disappointed in this. And then so she says that I'm going to go to Lawrence's cell, to the friar's cell, and make a confession and be absolved. Nurse is like, okay, on that. And then she goes, oh, this is just, awful, terrible. What should I do? And she says, okay, I'm going to go to the friar, and, to know his remedy, what's his advice, and if all else fails, myself have power to die, so I can kill myself.